Hello and welcome back to the second part of this book diorama build incorporating a German World War I trench into a history book about the battles of Passchendaele. I'm using a German Fahrpanzer kit from Copper State Models as the main elements. These were mobile artillery pieces housed in an armoured turret with a 5.3cm quick-fire gun, and they fired a maximum of 3 shells per minute. Served by 2 gunners, it could be moved around on special horseback, but after the start of the First World War it came to be used also in trench positions. From a recent trip to Ypres and Flanders in Belgium I wanted to create a piece inspired by some of the amazing museums and places I've been to, some awesome monuments of the Great War, and also like here at Sanctuary Wood where you can see replica trenches still in the ground. The full video of this trip can be seen in part 1 of this project. I'll leave a link in the notes below. So this is where I left off in the first video, a basic plan of the trench system I wanted to try and recreate. On the left hand page I have a shell hole 2 with a German casualty just over here. I'd sourced a number of photos to give me some ideas of what I wanted to try and recreate with my trench, with also a copy of the book I'd originally bought in the museum whilst I was in Ypres. I'd also visited some reproduced trenches in the excellent museum in Belgium at Passchendaele, which helped a lot, seeing the various materials and designs they had used to build them. The book itself is on a 2-inch piece of foam, which I'll cut into to form the depth of the trench. The corner piece of the book, this just comes away to make the building and the painting a whole lot easier. And the trench will exit at the front here and also to the side. So this is the basic layout of the trench I had in mind. Trench boards either side, perhaps a little dugout at the back here. At the front there'll be 2 or 3 firing steps. They'll be situated next to the main Fahrpanzer, which is like the main part of the build. And then around the top, just some sandbags and some defences, barbed wire, entanglements, etc. Just to add some details and to give the trench a little height. Once again, using the reference photos I got off the internet to give me some ideas on how to build the trench, what it will look like, as well as the photos I took in Belgium. So I cut away the corner section of the back cover where the second part of the trench section will be, perhaps where the dugout will go, and then remove the remaining part of that back cover, again where the flooring is going to go. Next was to mark and cut out the foam. Okay, so I jumped a little bit here where I forgot to actually film anything, but the layout itself was built up using foam, balsa wood and plaster. I made enough room for the Fahrpanzer to go, which is the most important thing, and then just added some sand on to create some texture. So I used that clay to create some sandbags using a figure just to help with the scale, and these were placed around the edge of the trench for to create a firing step, using twigs to keep everything in place, and all this added a little bit more height. And as I mentioned before, I thought on the opposite side I would build a dugout, and this again would add a little bit more detail, so all I did was mark out a place for this to go. The dugout entrance was built using balsa wood, and as I just mentioned before, because it wasn't really planned, I needed to chip away some of the bits of the flooring to allow for the layout and the dugout itself to sit properly. The sides of the walls, these were glued and lined with clay initially, before adding larger branches to the sides, and just to mix up different materials that they'd used to build in the trench system. I'd seen other modelers using bristles from a brush to use as fine branches for the wall sections, which is a really good idea. But outside my house at the same time, loads of these things have blown in too, ideal for what I wanted to recreate. So mixing them with the bristles, I glued them onto both ends of the piece. To recreate the mud, I used Vallejo's ever-trusted product. This stuff is so good for imitating soil and mud, either using it straight from the jar itself, or you can thin it down with a little water depending on what you need it for. I really recommend it to anyone who wants to try recreate some muddy or some earth terrain. Everything was then primed, the trench system, the dugout, and then even the Fahrpanzer itself to give a base colour, and then I could start adding some colour. The wood for the trench boards was simply a watered down paint, so really I was just to stain it more than paint it. And I did something similar with the sides of the trench, just in a more creamier, lighter colour. I airbrushed the interior of the turret according to Copper State Model's instructions, knowing 90% of this detailing won't even be visible once the Fahrpanzer is on the model. These are the doors that came with the kit. They hold all the equipment for the gun, but Copper State Models also sell 3D printed parts as an enhanced extra via their website. These are just €5 for the pack of 2, which wasn't bad, and compared to the kit ones you can see on the left, the detailing is much more prominent. For the right door it's the same, the boxes, as you can see, are much deeper. I weathered the inside of the white inside of the turret with AK's weathering pencils, which I love to use for things like this, but again knowing that none of this will ever be seen once it's all glued together and the top of the turret is on, but it just takes away the harshness of the white paint. Same with the ammunition shells. I just did the ones at the front and the ones that could be seen. I airbrushed the exterior of the turret with German field grey, and then painted the gun with gunmetal, and then once again using AK's pencils to slightly shade the field grey and make it look a little bit dusty. The doors went on easy enough, and then once that was done, I just used a pin wash to highlight the rivets and the details that were on the edges and around the outside of the turret. So for the weathering of the wood, I used MIG's oil brushes in dusty and earth tones. This would give the walls and planks and the floor a much more harmonised tone. I dabbed a few spots of each colour down and just began blending it all with white spirit. Because the oil is so versatile and it doesn't dry for quite a while, it allowed me to play around a little until I could get something I was happy with. Tried to paint each piece of wood individually, separate to the one that was next to it, just to avoid it looking so monotone and give it some individuality. And once I was happy with all that, I just gave a quick wash using burnt umber and smoke acrylic paints. These were highly diluted with water just to finish it all off. The paint obviously not affecting or spoiling the oils that were painted on previous. I painted up all the wooden of the corner piece using acrylic paints first, and once I was happy I added a wash of diluted oil paints and white spirits just to give everything, blend it all in and give it a little bit of shading. I even sanded down the natural twigs to give them a little wear and tear so they didn't look quite so fresh. To block off the dugout entrance, I rolled out some green stuff putty to make a little curtain as such, and this was just to hide the depth and the foam that was behind. Once it was finally glued in place and I was happy, I just filled up all the dodgy little holes and gaps with the Vallejo mud, which also helped make the trench look a bit more dirty and realistic. Then, with the help of some extra mud, I incorporated the Fahrpanzer into its final position. We've come to the end of this second video for this project. As you can see, I've enclosed everything now in 3mm balsa wood, and the idea of this is try and replicate an ammunition box for the shells for the Fahrpanzer. It's not actually glued on right now, so in the third video I'll take it all off, paint it up, and have a stencil on here just to say exactly what this is supposed to be. I've even put a little carry handle on the side for details, and I've also put our casualty in his shell hole now. Added some more Vallejo's mud to embed him all in there, and then and again in that third video I'll make some barbed wire entanglements, some bits of equipment, his rifle, a helmet, and also a little bit of water as well, just to go through here to make it look nice and muddy and wet. For the third video, what's to come is to build up the defences around the front of the trench using some more Das clay sandbags. I've also got a little machine gun post here, and that came with this infantry set I got from ICM from a project previous. And the good thing about that set, it came with lots of accessories. So I've still got some equipment left from the guys, and also a host of weapons and tools and bits and pieces that I can incorporate into the model, which will help with the detailing. I've got some sapper tools I picked up from Plus Models. So you can see there's some shovels and some wire cutters, things like that, and that's going to be dotted in and around to add some more details. I got some Edward, what's left of some barbed wire I had again from previous projects, and using some wire I'll recreate some of the posts that the barbed wire is attached to. So that's all going to be all around the front of the trench to act as a defensive system, and also in and around this little guy's shell hole. I have some corrugated cardboard, and that's probably just going to go somewhere like that, and just to enclose some of this trench part, put some mud over the top of that. And then finally, as we mentioned before, the Fahrpanzer, the shells, they've got some used shells and some fresh shells, and again that's just going to add to the details. That was €5 as well, and that's just going to be to put in and around here. Recreate some ammunition boxes in 1/35 scale, similar to, or identical as the idea to this one, and again that'll tie in the sides of the model to the ammunition boxes inside. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's been great fun so far building this, and I'll see you in part 3.